My name is John Smith. I'm in my first year as a working professional. I owe my journey here to my parents, though I'm not biologically related to them. Before I could even understand the world around me, I found myself placed in a facility, surrounded by other children with similar backgrounds and caring teachers. My school friends had a different upbringing, but I never felt out of place. In fact, I enjoyed having friends my age around when I came home, and I never felt lonely. I even enjoyed taking care of younger kids and playing with them. When I was in second grade, my current parents came to the facility. They were a couple in their 50s, and a brief conversation was enough to tell that they were kind-hearted people. I had been content with my life in the facility, so the idea of leaving my teachers and friends behind made me a bit sad. However, I was sure that I couldn't go wrong with these two. The warmth of my parents' presence reassured me. This Smith couple, who adopted me, were truly kind-hearted people. They adapted our meals to suit my young palate, making it more Western-oriented, and they encouraged me to ask for what I truly wanted instead of suppressing my desires. Looking back, they didn't buy everything I wanted without reason, but it felt good to know that they genuinely cared about me. Their loving upbringing had a significant impact on my academic performance. Both of them were knowledgeable and, most importantly, skilled in teaching. Instead of forcing knowledge upon me, they used a teaching method that encouraged me to apply what I had learned to solve problems. Even when I struggled to understand something, they never resorted to yelling. Thanks in part to such parents, I always liked to study. In fact, thanks to them, I grew to enjoy studying. I was able to achieve decent grades without going to cram school, and I even got into the college I aspired to after high school. I enrolled in the Faculty of Education. I had a vague but strong desire to do something similar to what the people who raised me in the facility and my adoptive parents did. So, it took me a little longer to find a job. School teacher, tutoring, after-school programs. I was torn because I was mainly considering careers in education. My father gave me some advice during that time.
John, if you're interested in a job related to education, how about working for an educational materials company? You may not have direct interaction with children, but it's a rewarding job.
With those words as a catalyst, I became interested in a job related to educational materials development. Upon researching, I genuinely believed it to be a wonderful job that could benefit children, providing them with a fun learning experience, just as my parents had done for me. So, I applied for a new graduate position at the educational materials company Brown had mentioned and was fortunate enough to receive a job offer. Even though we weren't biologically related, I had received a lot of love and support from my parents, which helped me become a respectable professional. There are various roles in an educational materials company, such as sales representatives who promote products to educational institutions, design teams that handle covers and illustrations, and public relations specialists. Among them, I had the opportunity to work on educational materials development, which I had admired. Being able to do the job I wanted from my first year at the company was truly fortunate. The role of educational materials development allows for some individuality. Some emphasize the clarity of explanations, while others focus on the quality of questions. I prioritized making learning enjoyable for children and submitted proposals with that in mind. However, as a newcomer, my skills were still lacking. and my proposals often didn't get approved. I received feedback that while my ideas were good, it was challenging to strike a balance between fun and clarity. I understood this and made it my goal to improve. Nevertheless, I continued to submit proposals without getting discouraged. My content was still immature, but many of my superiors appreciated my attitude, always offering words of encouragement and advice. However, there was one supervisor, Brown, who was different. Brown's main focus in educational materials development was how many units could be sold. In extreme terms, he believed that as long as it sold well, the content didn't matter. Of course, I understand how important sales are in this industry. Nevertheless, during the project meetings, Brown's stance remained that as long as it sells, the content doesn't matter. He seemed to believe that it didn't matter anyway because kids are not that smart. The statement that it's better to focus on collaborating with popular characters in design rather than emphasizing the quality of the questions and explanations didn't sit well with me. Since pointing it out, I have drawn Brown's attention. I thought I was careful in how I expressed myself. In our project meetings, it's common for people at different levels to exchange opinions freely, and it wasn't unusual for me to speak up to Brown this time. However, it seems that Brown didn't like it. I felt that our relationship was becoming strained, so I went to apologize to Brown right away. However, he didn't even listen to me. After that, Brown's harassment began. He assigned me tasks that were impossible to complete by the deadlines, and he burdened me with tedious administrative work and cleaning tasks.
Hey, you're a newbie, so take the lead on these menial tasks. What are you slacking off for?
Sorry, I'll get it done. In this way, they drop everything onto newcomers just because they're new. I thought about consulting with other supervisors, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because I was afraid it might make things even worse for me. I sometimes had to work overtime to finish the tasks assigned by Brown, and by the time I got home, the date had changed. Gradually, I was being excluded from the work of educational material development and treated more like a handyman. Nevertheless, I did my best to motivate myself and work hard towards a certain goal. I wanted to present a trip to my parents as a gesture of gratitude. Looking back, I had never seen my parents indulging themselves since I was a child. I suppose they had been making sacrifices for me ever since they took me in. While watching a TV program featuring Luxury Hotel, my father and mother had this conversation.
It's nostalgic. We went there when we were young.
That's right. I'd love to go again.
Unusually, the two of them were talking about that. It was the first time I had heard such a conversation, and it left a deep impression on me. So, I had always wanted to take my parents to that hotel someday. Thinking about it, enduring this tough job was worth it. About half a year after Brown's harassment began, and after 1 year of being a working professional, I had finally saved up enough money to stay at the resort hotel my family had talked about. I made a reservation for the luxury resort hotel my parents had discussed and immediately decided to invite them. Dad, Mom, how about going to this hotel together next time?
Isn't this the hotel where Mom and I went long time ago?
Yay, I remember that. This isn't nearly enough, but I've been wanting to show my appreciation to you both. Is that okay?
Of course it's okay. There's no way we'd refuse.
My dad was holding back tears. My mom seemed deeply moved too. For some reason, seeing that scene made my eyes well up with tears.
But that hotel must have been expensive, right? I feel bad about having John pay for it.
Don't worry about that. I've been working hard for this. It's for this very reason.
Mom, let's gladly receive the offer from John for this one.
Yes, you're right. It's been a while since we had a family outing without any interruptions.
2 weeks later, our family visited that luxury resort hotel during a long weekend. Both my dad and mom have been looking nostalgic since we arrived at the hotel. Just witnessing that scene filled my heart with warmth. On the first day, we enjoyed a lavish dinner and my dad and I relaxed in the hot springs. My dad smiled at me and thanked me again for bringing them here. Planning this trip was definitely the right decision. While thinking about such things, I fell asleep. The second day of our stay at the hotel, we visited tourist spots that my mom and dad had been to in the past. The three of us had a great time sightseeing. Fun times always seem to pass by in the blink of an eye. All that's left is to spend our final night. I headed to the buffet dining area for dinner a bit earlier than the two of them. There was a proper reason for my solo excursion. During our trip, spending time as a trio was important, but I also wanted my parents to enjoy the memorable places together as a couple. However, while waiting at the table, an unexpected person appeared. It turned out to be Brown. Upon seeing my face, he approached with a displeased expression.
Why is an incompetent like you can't even do their job, in such a wonderful hotel?
Brown, my family and I are here.
I see. So, you're still clinging to your parents. Even though your parents probably aren't anything special, when you and your kind are here, the quality of the hotel drops. Get lost.
Please don't insult my parents.
Oh, an incompetent like you talking back.
Suddenly, Brown started shouting. Involuntarily, I also froze in place, and perhaps surprised by his outburst, a nearby child started crying. This was turning into a mess. I couldn't forgive Brown for insulting my parents, but I couldn't afford to cause trouble to those around us. While I wanted to defuse the situation for now, Brown didn't stop.
You brat, shut up. What are your parents even doing? Bringing a useless kid like you here?
Brown continued to berate the child, who was now crying even harder. The peaceful atmosphere of the hotel had been completely disrupted. In this tense environment, my parents appeared.
You apologize to that child.
Huh? Why do I have to apologize to this kid? Who are you anyway?
I'm John's father. And who are you?
You're that inept father. Your son does nothing but chores every day. Well, I've arranged it that way, you know.
So, you're John's boss.
That's what I've been saying. Are you deaf?
Then you should know who I am too, right?
What? Wait, what?
Suddenly, all the energy drained from Brown's face. It was no wonder. My father was the chairman of Smith Publishing, the parent company of the company where I work for. Brown, not realizing the true identity of the person he had so confidently berated, stammered in shock.
While I had left personnel matters to the employees of each company, berating a child unreasonably, being harsh with subordinates, and using foul language with elderly strangers, I cannot overlook this as someone involved in education.
I am terribly sorry.
It's too late for that. I'll be reporting this to your company president. Now, get out.
With a stern look from my father, Brown hurriedly left the buffet area.
I was scared, huh? You're safe now. Let's go get some delicious food together.
Without paying any attention to fleeing Brown, Dad gently spoke to the crying child nearby. Seeing Dad like that, I felt proud once again that such a wonderful person was my father. After enjoying a delightful meal, we returned to our room with my parents. They thanked me for this enjoyable trip and started reminiscing about the past, saying it was a good decision to adopt me. They had always loved children, but Mom had been physically weak and unable to conceive. They had struggled for a long time, attempting to find work that would support children like me, such as developing educational materials and operating child care facilities. One day, while inspecting one of the facilities they managed, they noticed a young child who was kind and considerate to the younger kids. This child would help out the teachers and lend a hand whenever another child was in trouble. My parents grew fond of this child and decided to adopt them. And that child turned out to be me.
I'm so glad that John has grown up to be a kind and compassionate child.
Yeah, I've always fought that way since we adopted John.
Tears welled up in my eyes unexpectedly. I had thought that I was merely being helped by my parents, but I had also been able to make them happy.
I suggested John for the interviews at our company because I thought his gentle personality and demeanor would be a good fit. By the way, I haven't told the company president that John and I are related. John's success is entirely his own doing.
Saying that, Dad patted my shoulder. I was genuinely happy. It felt like my efforts had finally been recognized by both my parents. From that point on, we continued to enjoy our time at the hotel. Some time later, Brown was fired. President, at the request of Dad, the company initiated an investigation into Brown's conduct. It seemed that Brown's actions had been a cause for concern for some time now. Upon further examination, it was revealed that Brown had been bullying not only me, but also other employees. I was assigned a new boss, Wilson, who came from the head office. He was strict but kind, and he had a warmth reminiscent of my parents. My days of doing nothing but chores were over, and I could once again participate in educational material development work. However, Wilson pointed out that, for the sake of good educational material development, I should gain more diverse experiences. I agreed with him, and I started showing interest in jobs in other departments such as public relations and sales. Although there were challenges in these unfamiliar roles, my supervisor was always there to support me. It was reassuring to have a reliable senior by my side. Despite my previous misgivings about Brown, I couldn't help but think that he had been disrespectful. Now, I was fully immersed in my work, but I hoped that someday I could engage in work related to child care just like my parents. I wanted to support children who were going through tough times, both through educational materials and direct interaction. After working under Wilson for a year, an opportunity came my way. As part of the company's community service activities, there was a plan to visit child care facilities and provide children with school supplies such as textbooks and notebooks. I eagerly joined this initiative. We visited various facilities and distributed educational materials to each child. Here, take this. I'd be happy if you could study a lot with it.
Okay. I'll take good care of it. Thank you.
The children hugged the educational materials we gave them, treating them with care. Watching them, I felt deep down that I was glad to be doing my current job. Although I still had a long way to go, I wanted to continue working in a role where I could support children, just like my parents had done.